Hello, and welcome to Module 3 of How to Conduct a Basic Crime Scene Investigation. Now, before we go into Module 3, let's recap what we talked about in Module 2. We talked about the steps in conducting a basic crime scene investigation. We talked about the function of photography at a crime scene. We talked about search patterns used to locate evidence at a crime scene. We talked also about the crime scene sketch and the importance and the uses of the crime scene sketch. Now that you have the particulars about exactly how to define a crime scene and some of what to do and what not to do, let's move and discuss the collection of physical evidence and exactly what needs to be done on and off the crime scene. Okay. Crimes Module 3, collection of physical evidence. When you're talking about the collection of physical evidence, it depends on the type of evidence that's present at your crime scene, what you will need to do to recover it. Like I say, every crime scene is different. All of them are unique. There is none exactly like another that you will ever find. So you have to treat each crime scene differently. You have to collect evidence from each crime scene differently. Okay, that's why we have different search patterns, because of the fact that there are certain ways, according to certain crime scenes, that you might use a certain search pattern. Same thing goes too for the collection of evidence. Okay, the first thing that you want to collect inside of your crime scene are the temporary movable evidence, things that might move. Let's say you had a bank robbery and your perpetrator left the bank running with money falling out of his the money bag. Now those bills are considered evidence, so they have to be, as soon as possible, they have to be photographed and have to be in their current location, because the wind may blow, it might snow, it might rain, so that would change your crime scene. So what you want to do is take a picture of the bills in that position that you find it, and then pick that up. That's what you call a temporary movable evidence. Okay. Next is fragile evidence that may break if it stays on the scene for a while. It may stand a chance of being broken, so you want to remove that. Any evidence that may be considered easily lost, I would go ahead and take a picture. Everything you collect, before you collect it, make sure you take a picture of it in position where you found it. Matter of fact, you can take different angles of the picture of the object in the way that you found it. All right. You want to wear protective clothing at the crime scene. Protective overgarments, protective shoes, protective latex gloves, and eye goggles. And most of this depends on your departmental supply. So I can't tell you that you need to have on a overgarment, or you need to have on latex gloves, which latex gloves are very important, but I can't tell you that you need to have these things, because you have to go by your departmental policies and procedures, okay, as it relates to crime scene investigation. All right. Next, we talk about you always follow your departmental standard operating procedures. Remember that when dealing with blood samples, Some people pick blood up and put blood in a plastic bag. You don't, that's not the way that you handle blood on a crime scene. You have to remember, blood has to be air dried and paper bagged, okay? That way, a plastic bag will cause moisture to continue to transpire inside of the blood fragments. So dried blood is the best type of blood to receive, to analyze from a crime scene. All right. Want to make sure that, like I said, it's stored in evidence, either bag or envelope that's made out of paper. And all evidence should be properly packaged, sealed, and labeled. That's one that you might want to remember. That's a question that you might see that again, okay? But I'm gonna repeat that. All evidence should be properly packaged, sealed, and labeled. Next, I'm gonna talk about the evidence log. On the evidence log, you start out with the case number. Each individual case has a number. That way, that's how you identify that particular case by its case number. Excuse me. The second thing on the evidence log is the description of the evidence. I think I have a sheet that's that I may be able to show you on the evidence log. But like I said, the second is the description of the evidence. The third is the name of the victim. The fourth is the suspect's name, if known. The fifth is the date and time that you recovered the evidence. And the sixth is the signature of the person who recovered the evidence from that particular area. Okay, so these things must accompany any and all evidence. You got to show where it came from. You got to show what it is. You got to show what case number it was involved with. You got to show what time, and you got to show what date, and also who picked up this particular piece of evidence. Okay. Now I want to show you a picture of, it's not a very good picture, but I'm going to show it to you anyway, of a crime scene log. This is what I'm talking about, a crime evidence log that has a depiction of the name of the suspect, the victim, if known, the name of the suspect, the case number, and all of the information that we were talking about. All right, next we're going to talk about the evidence tag. And I just have some pictures that I want to show you. This is basically the picture of the evidence tag, and you can see it has the case number, it has victim's name, suspect's name, description of the item, everything, every individual piece that you collect from the crime scene should be identified with some type of tag that relates it back to a case number and relates it to a particular case. Okay. A chain of custody form. Anytime a piece of evidence changes from my hand to another individual's hand, we've got to cover for that. This is a very delicate item when you're talking about going to court, because the court wants to know who handled this evidence and if it changed, at what point did it change. Okay, so the evidence is a detailed, the chain of custody form is a detailed log showing who collected, who processed, who transferred, or who analyzed evidence during a crime scene investigation. All right. The chain of custody must be attached to each individual piece of evidence or container. So you see there's quite a bit of things that need to go with that evidence. All right. I'm gonna say that again. The chain of custody must be attached to each individual evidence container. All right. And I do have an example of the chain of custody form here. that shows the date and time that you received the piece of a description of the evidence and the date and time that you received it from, and from what individual you received it from. For instance, if I had a piece of evidence and I gave this evidence to you, then I would have to annotate myself as having the piece of evidence and giving that evidence over, turning it over to you. Okay, that's your chain of evidence, chain of custody. I'm sorry, chain of custody form. All right, moving right along, we have the paper evidence bag, and if you notice, you can staple it, you can tape it, but you need to seal it. It needs to be sealed. It has to be identified with the case number, because that's what relates it to whatever case you're dealing with, and the suspect's name, if known, the victim's name, address if possible, a description of what's in that bag, and the time and date, and also a signature of the individual who collected that particular evidence. Okay, everything doesn't have to go in a paper bag. Okay, some things can be placed in a plastic bag for evidence. And I have a picture here of a piece of evidence plastic bag that can be used to transport evidence. Okay, same thing here. You have the case number, you have the date and time, you have of who recovered it, you have a signature block for the person that recovered it to sign it over. You also have a description of the evidence that was recovered, and also you got the chain of custody here, who you turned it over to, okay, or who turned it over to you. Okay, so with that, we have finished discussing Module 3, and we will move on to Module 4. We'll see you later.